The Jinderella story has come to an end as Jinder was indeed hindered. On last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, he did not become a two-time world champion, unfortunately.
That was quite a good one, and I'm irritated that I found that funny.
Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast Review. I am Luco in DAD. I'm, of course, joined by Dan, the Truth Layton, your gem, that champion.
Look at it. We've got a wider shot, so it's all...
Oh, it's so lovely. Look at that. My laptop's sort of in shot as well. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast Review. Please do press the thumbs up button. Give us a little subscribe if you haven't already. We are around about 1,500 away from hitting our 85,000 target. So please do press that subscribe button if you haven't already, because when we do, we're doing a 10-hour stream. Funny enough, Tempest was saying today, oh, hey there. Wouldn't it be lovely if we did... No, it would have been...
Where did that go? That went all around the world.
Well, you know, there's Canadians. They're all from...
Hello! Wouldn't it be great if we... I did a really good Tempest impression this morning.
You know what I can do is, oh my god! This is one of the only...
I don't like him!
It's the only Tempest impression I can do. But he said, oh my god! And he said, wouldn't it be great if we did another 10-hour Royal Rumble stream? And I was like, well, you know what?
We're close enough.
We can do... if you buck up your ideas and help us out. Also, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this episode and join our live chat and get your thoughts about this show with other great, wonderful people. Also, if you'd like your thoughts read out in the air, any questions you want answered, WrestleTalk.com/support is the link for you to click. We've got tickets available as well for our Royal Rumble watch party. There are, let me do a quick check here, 7 tickets remaining.
Oh, goodness me. We only announced them last week.
There are 7 tickets remaining. And last night, we put on an extra 10 tickets for Survival Series.
Oh, wow.
So those are also rapidly selling out as well. So we're looking for a double sellout on Survival Series. So get your tickets now. Link in the video description down below as we talk about this episode of Monday Night Raw, which was main evented by Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'll add my 2 cents on the build, as it were. Big
Tony Khan's best build to date.
Yeah. The idea that I think we probably should have heated him up a little bit. If we're going to put him in a world title situation, maybe don't have him be chumpatized by The Rock, where the joke was, isn't it silly that you were once WWE champion?
What year is it? We're having the same conversation as 7 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. I think we should heat... But that's kind of the gag as well, isn't it? It's that, like, oh, he nearly did it again. He was a jobber that nearly won the world title again. That was kind of the gag they were running with this one. I think it might have been better if you'd have heated him up a little bit. Therefore, his offense might have got some reactions during the match itself. With that said, while 70% of this match was as dull as dishwater and all of the worst parts of his WWE Championship reign, and it was as boring as that as well, the final 30% of this match was tremendously fun once all the shenanigans kicked off.
I actually also thought they did a pretty good job during the show of giving it the presentation of a main event, of like, you know, there was a lot of very serious shots of him. He showed up right at the beginning with the car kind of thing. So it made it feel like a main event, even if, like, you know...
Yeah, if you keep telling someone it's a main event, it will eventually feel like it's one.
But this is what I'm saying. They made an effort to produce it and make it look like it was going to be one. So I think that the lead up and then, the last 30% of the match or so was very effective. And hey, you know, I don't think I'm the only one who had a moment of, oh, hang on, when the finish of the match was like, but that's how he won it last time. Like, what if they were going to go down that road?
Putting that over so hard.
Do you know what I mean?
So, I never thought they were going to put the world title.
Well, of course you didn't, because you're a very smart man.
It's not I'm a very smart man, because I never thought they were going to put the world title
No.
on, because I think we've not got to a point where it feels like Seth's ready to lose the belt. So it just I never felt like he was going to lose the world title here. But I will say that Colossus near fall was spectacular.
That's what I'm saying.
Spectacularly done.
Yeah.
So basically the shenanigans happened when, like, this was pure smoke and mirrors, which is what you kind of want to do with a Jinder Mahal world title match, I guess. Which is that Indus were at ringside. They were causing some distractions. At one point, they attacked Seth Rollins behind the referee's back because the referee was distracted by a Damian Priest who came down to the ring to tease a cash-in, and then he got into a brawl with Drew McIntyre because they're having a match next week. And that distracted the referee. Indus were able to attack Seth for a near fall. But the better one of them, the really, really good near fall, the one that people will remember most from this match, is that Indus hit Seth Rollins with the briefcase. Jinder then hit his finishing move, the Colossus, and Seth kicked out at about 2.999.
Yeah.
And it was the crowd, which were pretty quiet up until like the shenanigans kicked off, really got into that near fall and were having a great time with it. And then shortly thereafter, Seth hit the stomp for the win. I think that near fall, man, it really did what it needed to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a situation where the match was inevitable in a million different ways and didn't live up to the expectations of the low expectations that were set or whatever. But
I think it actually exceeded my expectations because while I thought 70% of it was boring, I thought 100% of it was going to be boring. So it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Well, I mean that, and look, it was. We're doing things to get us over the line towards the Royal Rumble. Reports of Seth's knee issue now.
We'll come on to that in a little bit, yeah.
Put into question like where we're going to go and how that's going to be, and fingers crossed and all that stuff. And we'll talk about it later. But like, for a thing that kind of happened suddenly, was good. Yeah.
Is this? Do you think this is the end of the Jinder 3-week push?
Well, it was only the second week.
No, it's the third week.
You're right. Yeah.
So this is the third of the 3 weeks of the usual Jinder push.
Then yeah. I don't see where you got. Like I have very little.
Put him in the Rumble as a body to fill.
Yeah, I think a Rumble run in. Why not? Like the reason I struggle a little bit here to know honestly what to say is because it did sort of come out of nowhere, and I think that my interest in this and whatever came from all of the bollocks that was online that was annoying last week, you know, and I think that the absolute stuff and nonsense of it all. But really, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think as a match when it was announced last
I don't care about Indashare.
Well, no, because they've also not been on TV.
That's what I'm saying.
They were only put out with him here because the Bollywood boys were, they're working elsewhere these days. So it was like, well, has he got heavy? Oh, he has got a heavies. Yeah, he's got that Indashare team. We'll put them out there. Remember Veer? He was coming once.
Yeah.
So, they put them out there just so they could do the shenanigans along with the smoke and mirrors for the final third. Yeah, I don't know if this leads to like anything more for Jinder. This really does feel like this was just filler on TV because everyone else is busy with Rumble build and Seth needs something to do because as they were putting over on commentary as well, he's the work champ, he's the working champion, he's the workhorse champion. Even called him I think they've got him the working man's champion because he opened the show like carrying his daughter in the back and stuff. Like it's the working man's champion. I was like, dressed like that? Yeah.
I want Punk to come in next week carrying Larry like at the start. Just to take the mick out of him a little bit, because like that shot, I was like, "Oh god!" Like, you know me and kids, not having it.
Well, apart from your partner's nephew.
That was funny for 1 minute. He started making a lot of noise, and I wanted an app. Couldn't get one. But no, I like the only thing I have is when we were doing all of the shenanigans and the nonsense on Twitter, and I think that for me, my very brief take on all of that, because I wasn't really around to talk about it or whatever, was don't punch down. Never punch down. But like when everyone started doing the like don't hinder Jinder, meme, Drew and whatever, there is a nugget of a story to be told with like Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal if you want to do that. They even taught like don't pull a face before I finish my sentence. Not as a story. Not as a team, sorry. Like, there's something if you want to explore. I'm from a background where like you ask the question, and if you don't find a satisfactory answer to the question, you put it away. But like Barrett even said at the beginning of this match, it's like the idea of he left and came back and won the belt. Drew left and came back and won the belt. They were 3MB. Like, I don't know. There's something you can play with. Yes, Hermione.
They've done that.
Did they?
Yeah. Those two have already feuded over that exact story.
Right, well. Then we're done then.
I think they had a SummerSlam match.
Wow, it really does not exist in there.
Was it at SummerSlam? Can the chat correct me on that one? But we have done Drew versus
Before I became like a member of the team and had to do this weekly as my job, I had the luxury of letting so much of this stuff go and just forgetting and moving on with my life. Like, that was weird. Anyway, what's over here today? And now I have to,
do you think there is an argument to be made I don't know how much I believe in this. It's only just cropped into my head now. Do you think there's an argument to be made that Tony Khan did a better job of promoting this match than WWE did?
I absolutely do, but I don't think that was his intent.
Oh, of course it wasn't his intent.
Yeah,
no,
I get it. I think. Well, no,
on Tuesday when you and I reviewed this show, we didn't get any Ultrachats in really about the Jinder thing.
No.
Neither sort of positive nor negative. We got a few sort of tongue-in-cheek ones, and we had a few people in the chat was just like, yeah, don't hinder the Jinder. People doing it in sort of this mocking way. But then because Tony Khan got like all pissy about it on Tuesday, I had a little whinge on Twitter about it. All of a sudden it became about this like really talked about match. So there was no hype for this match when we did our review last week. We didn't lead with it as our review last week. But all of a sudden coming into this match, it was the most talked about thing going into it. Yeah. Even though you and I forgot that it was happening when we were doing the TNA review.
That's the point. Like, we forgot that it was happening. I even said last week, I was like, oh, they'll maybe do this at the Rumble. But just to have an opponent. You could do a few weeks build of something to have Seth have an opponent at the Rumble.
It's Brock versus Hardcore Holly.
It's Bianca versus Alexa Bliss. It's like, it doesn't matter. And yet, no, it just kind of happened. And yeah, I do think Tony did more to make it the source of conversation by being a little brat about things and being like, whoa, that was the specific tone with which he wrote. And I don't think that's to WWE's credit. I think it's to their credit to the mildest amount that they then built this during the course of the show. That's why I'm complimenting that kind of production element of it. Of them, you should want to make me believe that Jinder Mahal could be a champ. But it's twice now that they've done it without any. I don't have so little to say about him.
Right.
What?
They did. So it was SummerSlam 2021. They had the feud, and it was done to promote the Slam Cycle.
What?
They had a toy called a Slam Cycle. That was like it was a toy motorbike that came apart with wrestlers, and and they did a match basically to promote this new toy, and that was the Jinder Drew match.
Well, I mean, great.
Also, people are trying to say that the camera's off center. It's not. Dan's off center.
No, I'm not. I'm exactly where I always sit.
There's two people being like, the camera's off center. It's not. Dan's off center.
I'm where I always am. But I like to. I like to look at you.
Dan leans a little.
I like to look at you.
But yeah, I haven't got much more to add on this.
I do think it's a failure of WWE to twice do the same thing with the same guy. Personally, I think it's like, I've always believed that anybody with the right level of work and the right level of commitment from both them as a wrestler, but also the creative, could be built to be a champion. There was a way to make Jinder Mahal first championship reign be something that's actually massively celebrated and get over the push into India that they were doing at the time. Like, there's something they could have done with that. There's something they absolutely could have done with here over the course of a few weeks program. This just wasn't it. And as a result, we're sort of left with very little to talk about as this World Heavyweight title match, which is where I think WWE have let themselves down a bit.
Well, on the note of the Rollins injury, because they did talk about this on the show itself as well, because Rollins did a lion salt and sort of landed slightly awkwardly.
Was
on
it
his
the lion
knee.
salt?
Yeah,
I was looking out for it because I'd heard it had happened but didn't know where.
I'm assuming it was the lion salt because that's when Barrett was talking about.
Right.
It looks like he landed badly on his knee there.
For me, it was when he did a crossbody off the top rope, and it seemed like he just took all of his weight on the one knee, and then from there on, I was looking for it. I don't know if it was a combination of the two or one or the other.
I'm only saying that's the line song because that's when Barrett was talking about it, but it could have been elsewhere in the show. PW Torch were the first to report that Rollins did injure his left leg during the match. Apparently it seemed to happen during a dive to the outside.
Oh, okay.
So that's when he did it. And they did the pedigree as well, which he didn't get all of. PW Torch reported that he was helped to the back and was said to eventually be able to put weight on the injured leg and walk on his own, albeit it was with a limp. Dave Meltzer then said on Wrestling Observer Radio that he's getting an MRI and we'll find out. Basically, I was told it could be something minor, could be something worse. We won't know until the MRI results come back. So fingers crossed.
I mean, fingers crossed in a massive way because he's very central to a massive potential storyline for the Rumble and going into WrestleMania season.
Yeah.
Knee injuries are no joke. Charlotte's out for 9 months.
Tegan Nox.
Cora Jade just had an ACL issue as well.
Yeah.
Although is it ACL knee? I always think it's knee.
I think it's knee, like a calf area, right?
Lita had a a knee brace on, so I've always assumed it's around that area. Yeah. Either way, Finlay and Gladiators had a knee issue.
No, oh yes, he did
in that one episode from Saturday. So it's if you want to inspiration, Seth, watch Gladiators, because he came back and finished with aplomb. The Eliminator did not take it out of him. No, I hope for the absolute best for him. I think there are. We were talking about winners of this Rumble, and I think the both of us feel. Cody and Punk are the two.
I feel like they're the two front runners.
Yeah, but the positive is there's also a Drew in there. I wouldn't be mad at seeing that. Sami Zayn's a hot property. Like, I think he's gonna? I think fans still like him, but do I think he's gonna win? No, but he's still a big name personality that probably is going to be in that match. There's a lot of big names, not on the SmackDown side. They're all in the main event, but there's a lot of names going into that match that you could think, oh, they could win. So there's still an opportunity to tell some stories. Let's say a Drew versus Punk for a vacated world title at the Rumble, at WrestleMania, or I don't know, something. Yeah. There's avenues, there's backup plans now, where in the past, I don't know that there always was. And the joy of having a massive... When Punk came back, we had a massive list of all the people who are big on the WWE roster. The joy of having all those people is that, you're not... Yeah. Leaving yourself in the lurch when your big guy walks away.
We'll get into our thoughts on the WrestleMania card, because I kind of proposed to you earlier what I think you could do as a Mania card.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking then about Rollins. If it is his knee, wasn't it the knee that he knackered out last time as well when he was
in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the. I wasn't on that tour, but I went to the show that was the night after
when he did a sunset flip on Kane.
It was 2 nights after, in fact, because he injured his match. He blew out his knee in the match with Kane. Mm. And then the night after that, which is the show my friend went to, was headlined by Kane versus The Big Show in 2015. And apparently it was not very good.
Yeah.
And the show I went to, which was the night after that, they flew in Moxley and Kevin Owens from the SmackDown. So they weren't able to fly until a few days later. They flew them in early so they could be the main event, because they were like, well, we can't main event with Kane and The Big Show again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was even the same knee. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always hoping for the best. You don't want to see someone get injured. Particularly when you're the world champion as well.
The fact that he's putting weight on it feels positive.
Yeah, if he's able to limp on it, maybe. But
and it's like, okay, cool, strap him up and have him do some promos for a few weeks. The Austin treatment.
He doesn't need to be doing anything. He doesn't need to have a match at the Rumble.
No.
Even with this gimmick of like the working man's champion or the workhorse champion, he doesn't need to have a match at the Rumble.
Yeah.
The Rumble card is pretty much set. You got 2 hour-long Rumbles. You don't need a load of matches in the middle of the card. So you can give Seth the night off.
Probably what we got: the United States title. We've got
the Fatal 4-Way.
Fatal 4-Way. Probably one more match somewhere.
Yeah, one more match in the middle there. What is Owens and
that's the United
Logan?
States title.
Oh, sorry, you did say that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Judgment Day versus DIY.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just do something around that.
Yeah.
The women's tag title.
Yeah.
Do him versus the Wave and the Party Girls or something like that, or a 3-way with Baszler and the other one, Zoey Stark. That's her name. Yeah. You just fill out the card that way. Because as we mentioned earlier, everyone's busy with Rumble build, so Seth doesn't need to be doing matches at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into what you thought of this main event. And I think kind of to the point of like no one's got a lot to say about it. We actually don't have that many Ultra Chats about this. In fact, we only have one Ultra Chat about the main event of this show, which is Blake Whitehouse here, who made a bet with us that if Jinder wins the world title, we had to make Pete and Tempest do the review of NWA Power for a year. And if he doesn't win, he'll just give us $5. Well, he's given us $5 here to say, here's the money for losing that belt. Look, Drew is in the Rumble. Heath is a free agent. Every 10 Manias have 3 people involved with the world title. Triple H is the biggest idiot for not giving us the 3MB triple threat that we all deserve. Be the worst booker ever. JK, lol. Cooper Crease here says, hi guys, this was quite a dull episode of Raw in my opinion. However, I am very intrigued by the Bronson Reed vignette. Hopefully Papa H has big plans for him. Very excited to watch the Rumble stream Jam That Jam. I disagree. I thought it was actually this is an episode that made me excited for the Rumble.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it, there was 2 big segments there to make you want to see the Rumble matches.
This is the go home show to the go home show.
There's one more penultimate Raw, yeah.
So, the stuff that was announced, I thought there was some really good segments here. I don't think it was dull. Do I think it was one to write home about? No, but I think that there was enough on here that got me thinking and had some fun stuff as well. Yeah, it was a decent show.
Brad G42 says, why do refs not sell submissions better? In MMA, when a fighter taps, the referee dives in immediately to prevent any actual damage. I feel like if referees did this, it would make submission victories feel like proper victories.
I am the king of the nitpick, and that feels like a nitpick to me.
Yeah. I don't know if I fully agree with that one.
Yeah.
They're telling them to ring the bell.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And Lobie Warsaw will do this one for now, and then we'll get into the show itself. It says, Dominic got a new CG entrance animation. He and JD came out to his theme song instead of the Judgment Day theme. He didn't take the pin either. All of this leads to me think that the singles push is coming. I don't know when or where or how, but I will be seated.
They do individual themes now and again, don't they?
Yeah.
With the Judgment Day, and then they do the collective nonsense one with the Now Has Got Our Truth in the graphic as well.
Yeah, and I think when Judgment Day, when JD joined Judgment Day, I think you and I said like, oh cool, there's your new Dominic. There's your new guy that's there to take the pins. I mean, they do feel like, and I joke about it on the edited review, but they do feel like the Judgment Day B team.
No, yeah, absolutely are. There's a mid card within the Judgment Day.
A mid card is strong.
Yeah,
lower card.
Curtain jerkness.
Yeah,
curtain jerkers.
Let's get into the review. Please do click the link. Thank you to the person who actually bought a ticket while we were on air. I'll give them a shout out, in fact. Mitchell.
Oh, thanks, Mitchell.
Bought 2 tickets while we have been on air, so thank you very much.
Looking forward to seeing you.
We will see you on the 27th.
Can I explain very briefly, because I see this comment pop up a lot, of how the Jam That Championship works, because I'm assuming I'm going to be defending it at the Royal Rumble.
And I know who it's going to be against.
Gonna let me know?
You'll find out in due course.
In due course, the powers that be are against me. I'm the man. No, they're the man. I'm going to stick it to them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to predict who wins, and as long as I keep predicting the right winners of the show, as I have done ever since SummerSlam, I'll keep this belt around my waist. It's a predictions-based belt, and it's currently, we're on the course to 1,000 days. Just don't think about how long it's going to take us to get there. But we're on. I am on course for it.
Do you know how many days you're on?
No, I just lost count. There's so many. So many.
But you will be defending that. We'll also be doing our Royal Jambles this year.
We're doing that?
Not only that, Dan. We announced this yesterday to people who have bought tickets. We're doing a fan jamble. A royal fan ball, if
Lovely.
You will. We're going to have tumblers. You're going to be able to buy entries into the Royal Rumble, get your entry for the men's and for the women's, and there are prizes to be won if your pick wins.
That makes me want to sing
Funhouse.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of fun with prizes to be won.
But also, weirdly, Toys R Us. Well, this is an interesting show.
It's a magical place, and we're on our way there with toys in their millions all under one roof. It's called
164 days.
That's what it was called. This episode of Raw opened with Rollins and Jinder walking backstage, but actually opened with Cody Rhodes to talk about beating Nakamura, and then was about to get into this whole, I've got a little story that I'm looking to finish.
Why did the set look unfinished?
It's a new set.
Is it?
Yeah. Since
when?
I think this week. I think
is it official?
I believe that was the first week they've got a brand new set for Raw. Yes.
Which is just stick up a couple of... I mean, look, I'm all for our new industrial-looking set.
I didn't notice it until I was getting the image for the thumbnail on this show.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks weird.
It did look weird.
Yeah. But it only looks weird because it's new.
Yeah, that's supposed to.
You're so used to the big LED thing. I kind of had this with Dynamite last week, the one they did in Daly's place.
Yeah.
Because they put up the big LED board and everything. I'm like, oh, God, this just looks weird in Daly's place.
Yeah. Also, the incredible amounts of snow and bad weather in America probably meant an awful lot of people couldn't make it to the show that night. I think there was a story of Johnny Gargano having a nightmare getting there, but that meant that they were lighting the audience a lot differently as well. Covering up the empty seats. So the whole show had a very interesting. All I could think about for the first bit while Cody's talking is how this looks so weird to me now.
And by weird, different.
Yeah, I don't like difference. I don't like change.
You and the rest of the internet. I loved this segment. I thought this opening segment was absolutely awesome. And of course it was awesome. Drew McIntyre was involved. He is the best thing on Monday Night Raw. I think he's the best thing in WWE right now. He's certainly my favorite thing in WWE right now. And this segment is a brilliant example of why I love Drew McIntyre. Because Drew McIntyre came out here, because Cody Rhodes was just like, hey, I beat Shinsuke Nakamura, and I'm going to be, going into the Royal Rumble. I've got a story to finish. Drew comes out, and he's like, Cody, you and I, we're the same. We were both fired by WWE. We both came back, or we both made a name for ourselves. They then came crawling back to us to bring us in. We came in and we became top stars here because of the bigger names and the hard work we put outside. We're so similar. You and I were once tag team champions right here. Do you remember what we were called? And it was like, the Dashing Ones. That's right, we were called the Dashing Ones. We're just the same. You know, we got similar opinions about like the people that work here and stuff. And hey, look, remember my last match before I came back to WWE? It was against you. That's just, you know, WCPW, in fact, I believe is what it was in.
It was.
And Drew, you know, so Drew's making this sort of plea to him. He's like, we're both the same. And Cody's response to that was, we're not really the same. Because while I relish my second chances, you've just complained about yours. And you can see this switch go off in Drew where he's like, well, this isn't quite how I wanted this conversation to go, but now you pissed me off. And you got bitter Drew. Like, Drew was not being bitter Drew when he first came into the ring. It was kind of hiding his bitterness. But the second that Cody pointed out his bitterness, he let the bitterness wash over and he was like, you're just like the rest of them. You're just like Jey Uso, and you're like that idiot Damian Priest cashing in. You're just like that idiot CM Punk thinking he can just walk back in here and get adulation. You even worked with Punk recently. You know how bad he can be. And like, I loved and then Cody turned around and was like, and this is what I mean. You're always looking for someone else to say, but I know that when I make mistakes and I look in the mirror, I'm just blaming me. Like, that's the only person I'm blaming. Oh, and just as a reminder, that last match you had before you came back to WWE, I won that match. And he just walked away. I thought Cody was great. I thought Drew was awesome. I thought this was a great segment, and it really got me hyped for the Rumble.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, 2 brilliant Drew segments, reminding you why he's re-signing or otherwise an MVP. He's a fantastic character. I completely agree with you. He's one of the absolute shining stars. That's why I'm talking about all the different people you could have in place of Seth if Seth has an injury, which, you know, fingers crossed he doesn't. I thought a lot during this segment about where we are now and where we've been. And we were watching Ospreay Okada, and, you know, whether or not you believe the reports of Okada coming into WWE, the idea that he might is such an interesting state of the wrestling industry in WWE as well, and like what a different time we're in, and trying to picture Cody Rhodes with the belt, and I don't know, it was just such an interesting thinking exercise, and seeing them both and having their little face-to-face and having their, you know, and to reference WCPW and think about how really 10 years ago where we were, you know, all the Royal Rumble 2014 stuff that we're talking about because of WrestleTalk Extra and just because of Punk coming back 10 years hence almost to the day, it is just a fascinating little thought exercise. And I think that the two, in many ways, chosen ones, Drew was specifically called a chosen one, Cody being this incredibly handsome young gun son of a legend,
groomed to be, you know, partnered with Randy for a reason.
Legacy. Like, you know, it was so interesting to see how beneficial it was to them to go away, and how important it is to. We were talking a lot about it on TNA yesterday. The importance of a healthy industry to allow these people to grow. Oh, you got a Christmas present. Tyler Bates on the main roster now. But your example always is Tyler Bate just languishing in a developmental for doing nothing for a long time.
I think you can look at Dolph Ziggler as a very good example of this, of what would have happened if Dolph had been fired. If he'd have left WWE when Drew and Cody did, he probably would have come back as a main event star in WWE. Instead, he was in WWE and just remained a mid-carder for life. Even Kofi Kingston won the WWE title, but was mid-card for life, tag guy for life. If he'd have gone out, would it have been a different story? But Cody and Drew being fired was the best thing that could have happened for them, because they came back as bigger stars.
And there was actually another segment later on in the show where there was a conversation, two sides of a promo, one of which I thought, oh, that was a stumble. And the other side of the promo was someone who also had the beginnings of her dream, went away, and then came back, and coming back found a fire. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But it does speak to how much the system isn't the be all and end all. And actually, I find that quite weirdly inspiring, that, you know, if it doesn't, the course of life doesn't take you the way. It's about the opportunities that you follow along the way, rather than, you know. So I thought it was a really, really dynamic segment, very slow segment in many ways, but one that same as you, got me really excited.
And then that benefits Drew, like a slow segment like that, because I think that's how he gets his character over just that little bit more. But what I love about this, it didn't just get me hyped for the Rumble, it makes you think about WrestleMania possibilities. Yeah. And this is what we were talking about in the office earlier. I think this is an incredibly exciting Rumble because there are quite a few options you could go with for winners. We've mentioned Punk, we've mentioned Cody. There's also The Rock. And, you know, The Rock coming back 2 weeks ago seemingly was there to set up a match with Roman Reigns, it's either a case of he was there to set up a match with Roman Reigns, or he was there to do what The Rock always does, which is tease a match with Roman Reigns, then never do it.
Yeah, the timing didn't work out.
The timing didn't work out. I was
supposed to do it last year.
I didn't have enough time to get in shape. The year that I had to get in shape, or whatever nonsense he wants to peddle with whoever he's being interviewed with, Jimmy Fallon or whatever, Pat McAfee. So you've got those sort of three options there, but you've also then got like, okay, well, if one of them isn't winning, what are they doing? And what I loved about the Drew and Punk segment last week, and this is what I was talking about on last week's show, is that it made me want to see Punk versus Drew. This week's segment, it made me want to see Punk versus Cody. Sorry, Drew versus Cody. And I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting, because you've now got the possibility of, if Cody wins the Rumble, you could do Punk versus Drew as like one of your other big time matches on WrestleMania. If Punk wins the Rumble, you could do Cody versus Drew as one of your other big time WrestleMania matches. You're almost setting up Drew here to be a consolation prize. Even if you're not winning the Rumble, you've got a really good story you could do going into it. And I think Cody versus Drew, is it more interesting? Because the Punk Drew one's also fascinating. But the Cody Drew one, given their similar histories and their similar stories, could be a really, really interesting match for WrestleMania. And that's great, because that doesn't mean that if you don't win the Rumble, then there's nothing on the table for you. You're actually setting up other avenues that wrestlers can go down. And so I pitched the idea you could have as your WrestleMania card, Rock versus Roman for the Blue Universal Championship, Seth versus Punk for the world title, and Cody versus Drew in a WrestleMania main event.
I mean, this is why I've been saying for a while this WrestleMania feels like it's got the potential to be an all-timer, because when they've talked about, the various different main events, well, on this one, you've got 2 nights worth, and also it feels like there are several different main event options, and I refuse to see them, like, as a consolation prize. When Punk left in 2014, his match with Triple H was unsatisfactory to him because it wasn't, in the main event. If Punk doesn't main event one of the nights, the other match that he's still in is still a pretty high-profile match. The company and the level of stars that they've built and the stories that they're telling at the moment has built themselves to the point where they can offer you on a plate. Next week, we're seeing a match that I'm going to be like, yeah, give me that match. Not seeing a match, sorry. We're seeing a face-off between Cody and Punk. And I'm like, there's another one. I've thought about that before.
And that sets up the idea. If Drew wins the Rumble, the consolation prize then would be Cody versus Punk.
So there are so many, and I think that's why this sort of a Moose-Bushi thing, I'm like, yeah, go on. Show me them all.
Love it.
Let's see where it goes. And I'm not beholden to any of them until beginning of March. Because remember in 2001 with WrestleMania 17, the 2 people in the end of the Royal Rumble that year were The Rock and Steve Austin. So when you think about the fact...
It was Steve Austin and Kane.
Excuse me, my apologies to Kane, but you do questionable things these days, so I blocked it out of my memory. The last 3 were Rock, Kane, and Austin. So they were both in the Royal Rumble. And then obviously they go on to be the most iconic main event of all time. You think you're special, you do. So, like, there's a way to get to any of them. And this is the first year in a really long time, honestly, where I felt, I don't actually know.
Same here.
And we'll find out the pieces that we're left with on Saturday 27th.
That's what you want from a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And we've used 2001 as our example. It is the greatest Rumble of all time. But one of the great strengths of that is that although it felt so obvious that Austin was going to win, it presented you a lineup where you're like, but he might not, though. Because there's actually a lot of big stars in here that could win and could very well go on to main event WrestleMania. So I loved it for that reason. And I'm just looking at it being like, this is the fun of the Royal Rumble. I don't know who's going to win. Last year, I was very sure that Cody Rhodes was winning, and he did. The year before that, I honestly don't think I particularly cared. And then Brock won. I was like, all right, great, Brock, I guess. But, like, you want that, like, who is going to win the Rumble? 2020 is a good example of this, actually, where like I went into it, I was like, I don't really know who's going to win this one. Then Drew won. You're like, that's great, because I didn't really think of that, but that's a really good option. I'm so stoked for the Rumble. And it's not just in the men's. The women's one's got the exact same going in for it. We'll come to that when we get to it later on in this show. But I'm super excited for that as well.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's just present yourself with a smorgasbord of options and your fans are going to want to bite.
Yeah. Backstage, Damian Priest walked up to R-Truth to tell him to stop selling his new Judgment Day t-shirt that's got R-Truth written on it. And the reason why, Damien's like, look, it's not I'm pissed off about it. It's like, look, everyone else in the club's a little bit pissed off about you doing this, so could you pack it in? And Truth hands him a huge wad of cash. And Priest's like, what's this? And he's like, that's your cut of the merchandise that I sold. And all of a sudden, Damian Priest's like, sell it. Just keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Like, don't make a big song and dance about it. Also, when you're in the tag match later on, don't tag in.
Yeah. There was something... Hello. The
Hello.
door just opened in a very threatening way.
Oh, Sullivan's walked in here. What's Sullivan walked in for?
I'm so sorry, I'm grabbing a microphone.
Grabbing a microphone.
He tried to sneak into here so we wouldn't get disrupted in our show. And instead we've disrupted ourselves.
You know when you try and walk quietly into a room and you end up making more noise and knocking everything over?
Sullivan has come back at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
drunk as a skunk, not trying to wake up mum and dad.
Hope that we won't notice. But we noticed.
But we noticed.
Like Mr. Blobby on This Morning.
Exactly like Mr. Blobby on This Morning. Yeah.
Blobby, Blobby, Blobby.
Bye, Sullivan.
Bye, Sullivan. What was I saying?
I can't remember. Sullivan distracts
Probably didn't matter. No, the joke with the cash, very, very funny.
Very good.
The repeating of the Tom and Nick Mysterio one. Oh.
I had the exact same thing. I didn't want to be that guy, but when he did the Tom and Nick Mysterio joke again, I did think, no, don't do it again.
When I was a child, I might have told this story before. My favorite joke was about a wide-mouthed tree frog. And the joke basically goes, there's a wide-mouthed tree frog hopping through the jungle. He meets a giraffe. He says, I'm a wide-mouthed tree frog and I eat flies. What do you eat? And the giraffe says, oh, I eat leaves. And he carries on down and he meets another animal, blah, 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 until he ultimately meets a lion. I'm a wide-mouthed tree frog and I eat flies. What do you eat? And the lion goes, I eat wide-mouthed tree frogs. And the wide-mouthed tree frog goes, well, you don't see many of those around, do you? And it's funny. It's a nice short little joke. It's whatever.
Yeah.
As a child, I was like, the way to make this joke better, more animals. I'm saying villagers. This story goes on for about an hour.
You want to do the aristocrats,
basically? Yeah. But that's not how comedy works. I learned this as I grow. I learned this as I got older. So that's what's happening here. I'm like, and Michael Cole is. We'll get onto it when we get to the match a bit later on. Michael Cole is the worst conduit for this comedy. Last week's R-Truth video was one of the funniest things I've seen in a very long time. The inclusion of R-Truth in the Judgment Day graphic when they come down to the ring, which I didn't see. It was only on Twitter that I saw it. I was like, that is very funny. The money thing was funny. Not having any money for JD McDonough is also very funny.
Yeah. Well, he's not part of the group.
Just doing the joke again and then having the joke take longer and then being like, no, but the joke was this. No, the joke was this. I'm like, no. I
did enjoy this. I also enjoyed him dropping the money later on,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I don't
that part's great.
I don't think he was supposed to do because
No.
they had a massive replay of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Judgment Day, the B team took on DIY.
This match was well long.
Yeah, I mean, and it was only really good in the final thirds.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
But it was just long.
Yeah, it was like I thought the action was simple tag action.
Yeah.
It's that formulaic, North American tag wrestling style, which is where you build to the hot tag and the heels cut off the baby face from getting that hot tag. But once it actually got into that hot tag, the crowd went nuts for it and they really got into it. There was a "This is awesome" chant and they won with the DIY meet in the middle. I thought Ciampa's hot tag was very, very good. And for me, though, this match is a testament to the booking philosophy of Triple H that we talked about a lot on this show, which is that you put these people out on TV and they might not get reactions now, but in 5 weeks' time, after they've been on TV for 5 weeks getting impressive wins, then they are over.
Yeah.
It's almost as if wins and losses do matter. And this is this is proof of the pudding in this. This crowd were into DIY.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was good. They were there for it from the beginning because there was a Johnny Wrestling chant right as the bell rang. So it's like they were predisposed to be here for this match.
Yeah.
So then when they were delivered a good match, especially by the end, it was like, yeah, nice.
Can I whisper a joke to you? Because I haven't. I've said it out loud a handful of times over the years, but every time I've done it, I've been met with a sort of like that. I don't think that joke is as funny as you think it is.
Okay. I don't know. That is foul.
That's the reaction.
I'm disappointed
That's
in you.
the reaction, right?
I didn't like that at all. You don't, I'm not going to repeat it. Some things are sacred, Luke.
I know. My wife hates that joke.
I bet she does.
Anywho.
That joke would have killed in like Zoo magazine in 2004.
Right? I'm pretty sure that's where I read it.
Of course you did.
Earlier, speaking of putting tag teams on TV and not being over the first time you put them out, but they will be in 5 weeks' time, The Way were backstage with Adam Pearce, and they said, like, hey, look, we're ready for the tag team titles. And Chelsea Green and Piper Niven walked in and were like, no, I actually should have won last week, but that stupid incompetent ref was slow to count, so we want a match as well. And Adam Pearce was like, well, you know what? You two have a match now, and it's sort of seen as a number one contendership match for the tag titles. Speaking
of building to your WrestleMania matches, we're getting there with the Aldous and Pearce thing, because Pearce, in direct contrast with Aldous, needs to get control of this show. What Nick Aldis is doing over on SmackDown, I think, is really interesting. Like, his business of standing up to the bloodline in a way that is like, I'm sorry, Adam Pearce may have let you do whatever you want, but I'm not going to do that. You know, is very in contrast with Adam Pearce being harassed between these two sets of, and I don't know if they still do different writing teams for SmackDown and Raw. I think they do, but the Raw team have a different approach to the general manager role than the SmackDown team does. Apparently,
sometimes Adam Pearce just needs that drink.
Sometimes he just needs a drink, but like he has no real control over his show, and I found that quite interesting.
For a second, I thought you were going to say we're putting those pieces in place for the women's tag showcase.
No, I mean we are, but no. Candice and Indy had a promo video, and they weren't talking about fairies, and that made me really happy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, like, you know, they got a video package ahead of time to put them over, and then they beat Green and Niven in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Bit of a messy match, but it did what it needed to do, which was give the Way a win on TV.
And I quite like the double team Lion Salt move that they've got going on. I thought that was pretty cool. Indy and Chelsea had matching gear, and that confused me.
Didn't they just?
Yeah.
When they got in, I was like, they're wearing the same coloured gear.
Yeah, that was probably an oversight in the seamstress department, but yeah, it was. This was perfectly fine for 3 minutes. What it did.
Yeah.
I have more to say about the other women's tag match that comes later on.
We had a video package for Nia Jax to kind of put over her chances of winning the Royal Rumble and the domination that she is currently on. And it cuts backstage, and Judgment Day are watching that video package, and Rhea's looking a little bit concerned, I guess, because, you know, she doesn't really, kind of what Nia was saying last week, you don't want to have a singles match with me. You are trying to get away from having a singles match. And all the Rhea is like, no, I'm the bloody best, mate. She had a look on her face that was like, actually, I don't think I do want to have a singles match with Nia Jax right now. And Damian Priest walks in, and Finn's like, where have you been? Damian was like, getting this.
Getting my coin.
Getting my coin from R-Truth. And Finn was like initially kind of pissed off about this, and he was like, do I have some? And then JD's like, do I have some? Well, JD's like, no, he's not part of this group. We should stop him from doing all of this. But yeah, like it's you know, more stuff with Judgment Day and R-Truth. I'm enjoying the Truth and Judgment Day stuff.
I am too, very much. Do you reckon that JD McDonough is a little bit bothered in real life that he's not on any of the t-shirts? Like they made this run of t-shirts and then added JD McDonough to the team, and so that all the t-shirts are already out of date. But they're like, no, we've printed them now. We're not going to put you on any of them.
Yeah, graphic design is my passion, so but I haven't got time to put another name on there.
Yeah.
Ludwig Kaiser introduced Gunther, and it was nice to see Imperium just being Imperium.
This was big time.
Wasn't it just?
Yeah.
This is what you've been missing from Gunther, because we've been fannying about with trying to break this team up. Like idiots in a writer's room being like, maybe we should try to break this group up. Dissension equals drama. No, just to keep this group as awesome as they are. And Gunther, like, the promo was a little bit like, smells a little bit round here, which is not the Gunther I like. But he had a very good point, which is last year, I was the best man in that Royal Rumble, and I was one elimination away from winning the whole thing. So this year, I'm in the Royal Rumble again, and it's not going to happen again. I'm going to win it this year.
And he got a Cody Rhodes chant taking place.
Great.
Because Cody is famously not the guy and not over. Anyway.
Is that directed at anyone in particular, or just
the entirety of the internet?
It's not the entirety of the internet.
No, but the comments. Then.
And he turns to Kaiser and he's like, "What you've been doing the last couple of weeks is great.
Yeah.
You've just been battering people, and I love it. Give me a big hug." And I'm like, "Yes, lovely.
Yeah.
Just have them on the same
big dad
page."
hug.
Oh, this is delightful. And Xavier Woods made his return, and Woods came in and was like, and it was. It's Xavier Woods. He's holding the microphone like he usually does in that Woods way, but this was a serious, like, no, you done hurt my boy last week, and I'm really going to mess you up for that now. Thankfully, they were both in their gear, so they were able to have a match. And the match was like, it was pretty actually like heated between the two of them. But it ended in a DQ because Kaiser was going to do the chair stuff that he did to Kofi last week, but instead it was Xavier Woods that used the chair instead. And they had this brawl around ringside, and Kaiser was going to do that run around drop kick into the stairs, but Woods was already up, and Woods chased him off, and Ludwig Kaiser looked a bit scared of like, oh, I might have made an error last week. And he pegged it.
Yeah, this confused me a little bit, I'll be honest with you, because I really liked the beginning part of the segment, and then when when Xavier comes out to defend Kofi's honor kind of thing, I was like, oh, I like where this is going. I like that it seems like they've taken the difficult opportunity of, Vinci's having a concussion in the middle of the match and turning it into a story and having a bit of, because this couldn't have been part of the plan, I really enjoyed it. I think that booking on the fly in that way is really good. But then the match didn't need to happen. There didn't need to be a match here, I thought. And when we've talked a lot about like pacing your show out and finding space for other things and giving more time to other things. This was like 2 or 3 segments when it really could have just been either one or, I personally would have just had Kaiser completely decimate Woods as well and keep that momentum going and take out the New Day. And so that when, you can have a Rumble return spot with Kofi coming in to save Xavier,
particularly because after this you had a segment where Woods was going to be interviewed by Byron Saxton, but Ludwig Kaiser attacked him backstage and Jey Uso made the save. So if you'd have done the Kaiser beatdown of Woods the same as he did, but Jey made the save here, so you can then build to the Jey versus Kaiser match and then Jey versus Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania, although it's not going to be Jey versus Jimmy, isn't it? You could have done something along those, right?
Yeah,
is that what you're kind of getting to?
Yes, I think it was just an ineffective use of the time and an ineffective use of the segment, personally.
I kind of liked it.
I didn't not like it, and I think that these two have good chemistry, and Woods always pulls out a great match, and there was something about the sort of like
the bloody
rabid look on his face as well that really
because blood
worked
makes
for me.
wrestling better.
Well, yeah, in this case it did. I just felt like use your time differently, that I didn't think the match was ever going to end anyway other than a disqualification or a counter, and I felt like I knew exactly where this was going to go, so why not just get there and then use the time differently elsewhere. This was maybe not the show for that. There was nowhere where I was like, that could have used more time, if that makes sense. But yeah.
We had a backstage promo from Bronson Reed. This is the one that our Ultrachat was referring to earlier, which seemingly I read as like a promo on Gunther.
Well, this was it, because it basically said in the promo, one of you have a championship and I'm coming for it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was going to make a joke about a lesser championship that he's going to go for, but I actually think they've done a pretty good job of A, streamlining all of their belts, and B, making all of their belts seem valuable. To the point where the only joke I can make is the NXT Heritage Cup. And I'm like, even that I don't really think is an appropriate... It doesn't land the punchline.
I only presumed it was Gunther because he's already said...
Yeah.
Like, he's already kind of had his eyes on that a little bit. And do you remember they were going to do a Fatal 4-Way?
Yeah, they were talking about having ideas for the Intercontinental Championship, and then I assume Gunther had a baby and they had to change that.
He went away for a little bit. Yeah.
So, yeah, but they haven't... So maybe that's a match at Elimination Chamber. I mean, he's Australian, or is he New Zealand?
No, he's Australian.
We've had this
conversation before, and the chat corrected us.
I'm going to find out.
I'm pretty sure I said he was Kiwi, but I'm pretty sure he's from Auckland.
The chat will know. But either way, there's your match for the Elimination Chamber.
Chamber.
Oh, wait, he can't go there yet because he's still got his...
Yeah, we don't know if he's going to be at the Chamber.
Gunther's still got his visa issues. His visa issues are done in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
A couple of months, rather.
Just double check, because I've said it now.
What, Bronson Reed?
Yeah.
He's Australian.
He is Australian, I was right. Where's he from?
Adelaide.
Adelaide, not Auckland, because
No,
Auckland's in
Auckland
New
is New
Zealand. That's where I just confused myself. Geography was not one of my strong suits at school. Like a lot of subjects, geography was not one of my strong suits.
What was your strongest subject?
Drama.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
I got a B at drama at GCSE and a C at A level.
Oh. I got an A in Italian.
Did you really?
Prego.
I got a B in German at GCSE, but I did not do it for A-level. So I got 4 Bs, 1 C, 3 Ds, and a U at GCSE. And I got a C and 2 Es at my A-levels. And those 2 Es, let me tell you, really reflected the effort that I put into my studies.
I got a BCD. You know what my D was in? Media studies. Do you know what my degree is in? Media
studies. Oh, that's a lie. Media studies, because I got a C in media studies. I got an E in drama.
Yeah.
I got an E in drama and an English lit, and I got a C in media studies. But I got a B in drama at GCSE.
And you got an A star in Living It Up.
I got an A star in Smash Brothers Brawl. Is what Smash Brothers Melee, in fact, is what I got an A star in.
I bet you
and
did.
Smoking weed.
Yeah.
I did really well with that in my A levels. Not going to classes. It's amazing. I ended up in the place I'm in now. Do your studies, kids.
Or this could be you.
You don't want to end up like me, honestly. I would stick with school. It's much better for you. It's what I'll be telling my kid. Up next, we had Akira Tozawa versus Ivar. So, the joke here is that he's the big guy in Ivar. He's going to squash the little man Akira Tozawa. He's bitten off more than he can chew as Akira Tozawa. We've seen this over the last few weeks. But what Ivar had not banked on was Maxine being really sexy.
Did she pull a full Deborah?
She did. She did a Deborah at ringside.
Yeah.
She shaked her butt
and
wiggled her hips. And Ivar went, "What are you doing?" And Akira Tozawa used this as an opportunity to hit a sunset flip powerbomb, and he won.
Yeah. This was utterly fine television, this particular segment. That was a bit weird. I didn't think it was necessary. Ivar could have just squashed Tozawa and we'd be in exactly the same place because the post-match beatdown was that.
Yeah, okay, well, this is one of my least favorite things in the world of professional wrestling, which is that you beat someone, in this case Ivar, and then afterwards Valhalla headbutts Maxine and Ivar does the Doomsault anyway. So who's the real winner? Tozawa. Tozawa's the winner. He's the one who won the match.
Especially when we got the segment that happened immediately afterwards.
Which is Chad Gable is going to have a match with Ivar next week to avenge Akira Tozawa.
Which is so funny because...
Who beat him.
Because this is where we got Chad Gable's big hot run last year, was a program with the Viking Raiders where ultimately it was Chad Gable was the one who he had to sort of beat. So maybe we are heating Chad back up for the WrestleMania spot.
Don't get your hopes up.
My hopes are permanently up for Chad Gable.
He is in that WrestleMania 4-way showcase tag match.
No, it's Tozawa and the other one, Otis. They're going to be in the showcase, and Chad Gable is going to be in a fatal 19-way with all the other people that could have beaten Gunther this year, including Sheamus.
Okay, here's my alternative pitch for you. It's actually going to be a trios match. It's going to be Chad, Otis, and Maxine versus Ivar, Valhalla, and Tozawa, who switches sides and becomes a Viking instead of an Alpha Academy student.
The world's littlest Viking, the little Viking that could.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
That's my pitch.
I hate it.
That's got WrestleMania pre-show written all over it.
Can I do my other thing with this segment with Alpha Academy and the Diamond Mine?
Diamond Mine.
Is that what they're called?
No, I can't remember. Just the Creeds and Ivy Nile.
That's makes it.
They were Diamond Mine in NXT, yeah. But they're not the Diamond Mine here.
Well, they are in my mind.
In your Diamond
Diamond Mine. Why did Ivy come in so hot? She just burst into they're all having oh, this is really sad. Sorry, Maxine. Then Ivy comes in. She's like, enough! I will speak to Adam Pearce. She was so angry.
Well, she was. Did you see what Valhalla did to poor Maxine?
It was so
she was really angry at her.
Sorry to anyone listening on headphones, but I feel like that was just so odd. She could have just been like, do you know what? I'm annoyed at how upset you are. I'm gonna go fix this.
Here is what I will say about that.
It was great.
When that segment finished, I did have a thought of just like, oh no, we're going to have a Valhalla versus Maxine match on TV next week, and that's got ugly written all over it. Thankfully, it's Ivy Nile instead, so that should be a slightly more pleasant watch in terms of in-ring technique.
We're saving Maxine for one really good move in the Royal Rumble, and everyone does a big pot. Thank you, she's over the rope. That's going to be fine. In between these things, I don't want to scooch over it, was the announcement of Cody and Punk next week. If I may, KFC Yum Yum, come get me some. I'm so excited for that.
That's going to be great.
Oh.
We then had Rhea Ripley coming out for a promo advising whoever wins. Basically, what she was saying here is that, like, Nia Jax, if you're going to win the Rumble, don't pick me. Go to SmackDown and pick a Io Sky. Do not come for me because I don't want to have this match with you.
Yeah.
This is a really smart little segment here because Rhea's full of sort of this nerves of doubt of just like, I don't know if I've actually got the stones to beat Nia Jax. Out comes Becky Lynch instead. And Becky's kind of really... I mean, I saw some people in the live chat earlier say that they thought this was the worst thing on the show.
Becky and Rhea?
Yeah, but actually, I quite liked Becky in this segment. And Becky's whole thing of just like, I'm the best at doing this. And actually, funny enough, so are you. Really, we are the best at doing this game here in WWE. But I have got this slight worry in the back of my mind that I'm not as good as you. And all of a sudden, all of those nerves and that like paranoia and that sort of like worry that Rhea Ripley had was washed away, where she was like, I am better than you. And Becky was like, do you know what? The only way for me to really like disprove that worry and show that I am better than you is to win the Royal Rumble, choose you for WrestleMania, and beat you at WrestleMania for the world title.
Yeah.
And Rhea looks at him and was like, I hope that happens, because she doesn't want the Nia match. I hope that does happen, and I'll see you at WrestleMania.
I liked this segment as well. I will say the beginning, this is the one I was talking about earlier on when you had two different people, and Becky's the one who started as a wrestler. She had a bad experience, I think, at one point, or a bad injury, and then went away and was an air steward for a while and did some stunt work and came back. And that's all part of the Becky story that, for me, made me latch on so heavily to her as a performer in that rise to being the man.
Particularly when she came into NXT and they were like, do the Irish jig.
Yeah. It really was this, you know, she had a dream, lost the dream, got it back and fought her way to make it. And I found that incredibly inspiring. And that's why...
fabulous episode of the Stone Cold podcast.
Yeah. And I can't wait to read her book, and it's all going to be in there. And I think that the contrast to that was Rhea, who in this segment stumbled a lot. There was a big moment where she had a complete brain collapse. The thing about Rhea Ripley is that she's got enough aura that she can lean forward and you know, she's also got something in her to carry it off. The slow, deliberate promo that is the WWE writing style, I find a little bit... I'm done with that now. And so that's why when Becky comes out and says something that felt a little bit different, I was really all for it. And it kind of saved and lifted the segment back up for me, because that line where she's giving it like, you know, we're both pretty dominant. You've had this incredible run. You're going from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. I'm going from... I main evented WrestleMania and won the main event, la la la. We're so similar in so many ways, but I think you might be better than me. And it was that specific wording, I'm worried you might be better than me, is so brilliant as a hook for a story. This is the first time I felt like this could be one of the Mania main event options. You've talked about it, but for me it's been like, well, we've not done anything about it other than a couple of stare downs back last summer. Now they've shown me that it could be even in amongst your 5 or 6 different men's main events. You know, they've given me enough to go, oh, let's see what happens. Then when we get to the Royal Rumble, we'll again find out more.
When they had that stare down in the summer, I think that was when I said, that's your WrestleMania match. Because that's the biggest match that you can do with Rhea Ripley as champion, is her versus Becky.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't do that at Payback.
Yeah.
You don't do this. You do that. That's your WrestleMania match right there.
I think the only thing that pulled me back from it was the fact that Elimination Chamber is happening in Australia. Where it's like, what's the biggest match you can put on for Rhea Ripley in Australia?
So I think that's the Nia Jax match.
I do now, because this is where the segment has put it into the WrestleMania.
But kind of what I was saying about with the Drew and Cody segment earlier, this paints you the idea of like, well, yeah, Nia could win because they have been teasing this singles match between Nia and Ripley for a while now. So you could have Nia Jax win the Rumble, and it's Nia versus Rhea at WrestleMania. The match that Rhea doesn't really want to have, because that's the match she's worried about. Or you can have Becky be Becky 2-time and Becky win the Royal Rumble and she goes on to WrestleMania. But then there's the SmackDown side of things. Because I think the men's side of things is very much Raw.
Yes.
A SmackDown star is not winning the Royal Rumble this year.
I'm rattling through the roster in my head, and I don't think there's a single one.
I don't think, particularly because, as you mentioned, AJ, Randy, and LA Knight being in the title match, kind of like that's 3 of the top stars out. Like it's
Kevin Owens is busy in the United States title.
Absolutely, yes. It's not going to be Karrion Kross. It's not going to be Bobby Lashley or Austin Theory or the SmackDown Miz, Grayson Waller. It's not going to be any of them. So it's going to be someone on Raw. So when I'm looking at the women's side of things, I'm like, well, Nia and Becky seem like two front runners. But there's also Bayley over on the SmackDown side of things because she's got the story with Damage Control. And I don't know if you have both of your Rumble winners be on the Raw brand or you want to split them or what you want to do. But that's the fun of this year's Royal Rumble. I feel like I'm a broken record, and apologies if people are sick of me saying this, but that's what's the fun of this year's Royal Rumble is there's lots of genuine potential winners, and I don't know. I've kind of got my heart set on it being Becky, but I want to see Bayley win.
I think Bayley's going to win it. I think there is another way to get Becky into the pit. It's Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
You know,
well, yeah, that's what the Chamber's there for. Like,
Yeah.
it's a genuine... I'm not the biggest fan of, well, we'll just decide the number one contender in this Elimination Chamber instead, because I think that negates the point of the Rumble.
Yeah, I think there's something to be argued that
Second Chance City.
Let's say it goes down to Becky and Bayley, and she came second, and she was that close, and she goes, "I want it, and I'm going to fight for it." And Pierce says, "Yeah, go on then." Like, there's something to do that.
Actually, that also negates the point of the Royal
Sure,
Rumble as well.
yeah,
because
but you don't
the
get-
whole point of winning the Royal Rumble is you get a world title shot at WrestleMania. But if you come second in the Royal Rumble, you get a world title shot at WrestleMania. So surely just being in the Rumble gets you a world title shot at WrestleMania.
It's just that being two belts. That's your main
and
problem.
and being, two belts across both things.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing, but I agree with you in principle.
Yeah.
We had Jackie interviewing Seth Rollins, and then the Awesome Truth took on the Judgment Day. Miz made his entrance, but Truth came out with the Judgment Day, despite the fact he's tagging with the Miz. The Miz was like, "What are you doing? You're on my team." Truth fumbled all of his money to the floor because he was trying to give everyone their handout, gave Finn some money, gave Priest some more money, gave Dominic his cut. And there was no money for JD. His name's not on the merchandise. Also, you're not part of the group. I beat you in that match, which meant you had to leave the Judgment Day. Why are you still here? And the central comedy of this match was R-Truth kept doing moves to Finn Balor, but he didn't want to do moves to Finn Balor. Balor would quite happily do moves to R-Truth. Damian Priest not really getting involved. R-Truth struggling to get the hot tag to The Miz. But it builds to R-Truth hits Finn with the scissors kick. So he has the match won. And was like, "Oh no, I don't want to pin him because he's on my team. I don't want to do that." And Damian Priest was like, "Your fun comedy shtick was endearing for, a brief moment, but now it's time for you to get chokeslammed."
Yeah.
So he hits the South of Heaven and Finn pins him.
This might be your extra match for the Rumble, which is the Awesome Truth might have a tag team title win. If they could build myself to an Awesome Truth,
But they just lost.
I know, but that's not. They could have won it. Because he didn't want to pin Finn,
Right.
So they got the visual of the whatever.
And they were talking about on commentary that the Miz would like to reunite Awesome Truth and go, because they never won the tag titles when they were a tag team all those moons ago.
I think we have to very seriously consider the idea of Awesome Truth winning the tag titles at WrestleMania, which in the year of our Lord 2024 is a hilarious sentence to say.
It's also not the worst idea in the world.
It isn't the worst idea in the world. But like, if you get me to the point where I want to see it, then congratulations, Triple H, you are Booker of the Year. Do you know what I mean? Like, you will be in the final. I think, like I said, Michael Cole is not the conduit for this comedy. There's something about his.
No.
Do you remember when
Funny man Michael Cole?
Do you remember? I do rag on commentary a lot sometimes, and it is an incredibly hard job. So I like to have it said in public on camera. I watched some Major League Soccer the other day. And Kevin Patrick commentates on MLS.
Does he really?
He is very good. He is a very good soccer commentator. Why he can't transfer that over to WWE, I don't know. He's a different beast. But to give him his due, he is very good at commentary. So it is a difficult job, and I rag on them. With that said, Michael Cole here is giving me JBL. Like, he's giving JBL. Do you remember when Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis debuted, and they were trying to get over this like act or whatever, and the first thing you get is JBL going, "He took her name." And it buried everything immediately. It was over.
His gimmick was he was a cuckold,
Yeah, whatever. Like,
that's not what a cuckold is.
No, but we were all like, well, okay, the gimmick is over kind of thing immediately. That's kind of what Michael Cole's doing. He's like, I don't know what's going on with R-Truth. For some reason, he's not selling it. Like, and if this were the Attitude Era, JR wouldn't be burying this in the same way. I'm sure he'd be burying it in another way. But like when Grandmaster Sexay, but like. Yeah, I don't know. That aside, I enjoyed everything else in there, and that's why I'm looking at WrestleMania being like, yeah, go on then, I'll watch that. Why not?
I mean, I take your point, and I don't disagree with you on the Michael Cole thing. But I've been recently re-listening to the Attitude Era podcast review of The Rock's return. So like that WrestleMania period of time, and which was Rock and Cena versus The Awesome Truth.
Right.
I will take this Michael Cole over that Michael Cole.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Because that Michael Cole would make this actively worse.
Yeah, Michael Cole is a very good commentator on his day. To give him his due, like.
Only Kevin Patrick thing. Apparently he is because he's now doing it on his own, which was a 3-count prediction that I had. The word is this is sink or swim now.
Yeah.
It's like we've taken off your Michael Cole water wings. Let's see what happens.
And look, it is a hard job.
Adnan Burke.
Like Adnan Burke, Jimmy Smith, who I think did a decent job, but wasn't the best. Like, there's so many.
I like Jimmy Smith.
Right, like is it Jimmy Smith or was
no,
it?
it's not. It's Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith
Jimmy Smith is an actor.
We did this every single time.
I know.
Jimmy Smith is in West Wing and Star Wars.
Clones,
yeah. Fuck's every week, Luke. God's sake. Anyway.
We had Nakamura cutting a promo as well. Actually, I forgot this happened when I did my edited review.
Yep.
I've only just remembered it now. But Nakamura cut a promo entering himself into the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
I've got to agree with my our friends over at the Wrestle Club. It's hard to buy Nakamura as a serious threat because his gimmick is I start fusing and I lose him.
Yeah, I'm gonna chat Japanese about you, and then I'm gonna have a match with you where I kind of phone it in, and then maybe one good match, and then it's over.
And then I just lose, and then I'm just gonna be like, well, now I'm hungry. It's like hungry for what? More L's?
It's a very weird thing because the character and the work in the promos and the artwork they put in, I love it. Like it's great. But then he has a match,
I was then ready for the main event.
Yeah.
But we had another match to get in here. It was Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark versus Tegan Nox and Natalya. It went about 4 minutes, and Baszler and Zoey won.
Yeah, this was where I had sort of more to say, and it's that I don't think this division is working. Controversial.
Strong.
Yeah.
Strong feelings there from Dan Layton.
And it's not for lack of trying. Like, I respect that they're putting all these people out there. They've stuck with these partnerships. They are, in some... Like, Baszler and Stark feel like they make sense to me. They're both similar in the sense of they're, like, tough women, whatever. Mm-hmm. Tegan and Natty had that sort of thing back then. But when I look at this match take place, and we got the Party Girls, Piper and Chelsea, who I love more and more with each week.
Should say as well, the Party Girls were watching backstage with both of these tag matches.
They were. So like they're doing the work for it, and I appreciate that. Plus, we've still got the damage control situation over on SmackDown. We've also got the Witches who popped up in the middle of that match out of presence and then haven't been seen since.
They're having a tag match on SmackDown. Yes, it's them versus the Party Girls for the tag titles, I believe.
Thank God for that. They exist.
I think that's right. Go, you carry on. I'll double check.
It's just the thing of like, I think all of these women are incredibly good in various different ways, and I actually did enjoy this match. And I thought that moment where Shayna Baszler had the clutch in, Natty rolls her up for a pin, so Baszler sort of rolls through and just wrenches Natty back was great. It was really good bit, really good visual. I just think Natty's in the best shape of her career. I think she's a really good hand. I would rather see it be like a singles mid-card situation. The tag division just doesn't seem to be getting the flow, and I don't know what it needs to get the flow. But I think back to that little period of time when Becky was the NXT champ and she was defending left, right, and center, doing the rounds, all of this stuff. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And it got me excited each week to see the women's division.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be something more interesting to do with someone like Natalya than have her stand on the rope and shout Tegan to an audience who aren't responding. And that's not an insult to Natty or to Tegan. It's just, again, that thing of like, well, why should I care?
Yeah.
This division isn't as hot as you want me to believe that it is. But I think I love the idea of Natty being like the godmother of this division, and she's like, well, I'll get in the ring with you and tune you up, kind of thing. I think she had that great match with Rhea within the past calendar year. Like, there's so much you can do, and I'd like to see it.
I think I'm certainly past the Natalya thing now.
I don't necessarily want to see her be a champ. But I like seeing her involved.
Yeah, we've been. I mean, surely we're building to a whole like her and Tegan have a split, and we have a Tegan and Natalya.
I think
match,
that's my question.
But
Are we?
But I think we've passed that point as well. I also can't find any confirmation. Did I make up that the Witches are having a tag title match on SmackDown?
You had a dream.
I'm pretty sure they said that on commentary, but it's not on WWE.com, and I've Googled it, and it doesn't appear to exist on there either. Can someone in the chat... Did I make that up? or am I wrong?
Pass.
But yeah, I thought this match was fine. Fun fact: there was about as much in-ring wrestling for the women's division as there was on Collision in that one match. Do better.
This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the moving stuff around within your show and finding time, and that's also probably the reason that I'm not excited by this division. And actually, to echo a point, or to repeat rather a point that we said yesterday, when people sit there and go, your best people should be on the show, and you say do better, and it's like, well, it's whatever. It's opportunity, and if you're only given snippets, then you can't get over. And I think that, and you got to be able to get the reps in.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that we got some really good stuff in like September, October, when Becky was having that NXT Women's title run.
Really good.
More of that.
Yeah,
and you'll be flying.
I believe I was right. It is happening on SmackDown this week.
Great. Abracadabra.
And then we had our main event with Jinder versus Seth. I gave this episode 4 out of 5. I thought this was a very, very good episode of Raw. It just like coming out of it, I was like, I'm excited to see the Rumble. And we're only a week away from the Raw. It's a week on Saturday, and I'm dead excited for the Rumble. And 2 of the big segments on this show, the Cody and Drew one and the Becky Rhea one, got me excited for Rumble. Got me excited for WrestleMania. Like I'm fully on board at the moment. And as I said, I thought the final third of that main event was tremendously good. And yeah, it was a good show.
I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. I thought I'd give it a thumbs up, but I can't say I was writing home about it. If I missed it, I wouldn't feel sad.
Yeah, I think you could watch it in highlights. So, you can watch the YouTube highlights of the show and kind of get the full experience. But yeah, I had a good time with the show. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We're going to shout out our special Patreon Pledgehammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Next week, myself and Oliver Davis will be sitting down with to review Royal Rumble 2014, which will be then released the week after that. We've also got an After Dark coming out on Patreon soon. Plus, that WrestleTalk Extra might be the start of something new. Or maybe there'll be a podcast over on Patreon to tease what that could be.
Goodness me. We went musical there for a second.
I did. Well, I went High School Musical, in fact. And if you are one of our $25 above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on this show, like these fine folks. The movie Luke has never seen, Selena.
The Pharaoh, Stephen Mazzaferro.
The Soul Survivor, 1993.
The Incredible Tarzo.
Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Huh, the Rick Petch.
Tony Jabroni.
Trev Dog 316.
Commentator of the Century, Vince Phillips.
Willie Big E Singleton.
The Lumberjack, XX Logs XX.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore.
And Rue the Day, Rory O'Brien Kelly.
That is your Hall of Fame class for Tuesday, the 16th of January 2024. I can also now confirm there are just 5 tickets remaining for our live show, our watch party for the Royal Rumble. It is going to be such a fun night. We've got a load of cool stuff planned for it. In Quiz on May, Survival Series rather, is it's so close to being sold out again. There's only a few tickets left for that as well. So do click the link and get involved. Speaking of clicking links, why not get your name read out on the air with your question or statement? Go to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of your Ultrachats above the $5 amount. Like these fine folks. Geek of Arabia said, Raw was pretty solid for the most part, but I have to say that Judgment Day AR graphic with R-Truth composited into it killed me laughing for a whole 10 minutes and was the best part of the show for me. R-Truth is a treasure. Give him the Hall of Fame, please.
What a career.
Well, Ollie...
2001, Luke.
Ollie joked. Well, 2000 he came in.
Did he?
Yeah. He was in the final page. I think he's in Armageddon 2000 as with Road Dogg, Get Him Rowdy.
Cripes.
And obviously then he went to TNA and became NWA World Champion.
He did, yeah.
Great little run he had as The Truth.
Yeah.
Before he then came back as R-Truth. But yeah, like Ollie was actually saying today, he was watching segments of the 2001 Royal Rumble for an upcoming episode of TLC, and he was like, he just looks exactly the same.
He really does.
He said, if you told me he was a time traveler, I would believe you. And I said, well, that's what Getting Rowdy will do for you.
That's where he's been before he came. It was off time traveling elsewhere. He had to come back. Yeah.
Got to come back with me. Joseph says, hello, I'm really fed up of Seth's title run. Just so you know, that's an Ultrachat saying that, not me. Don't get too heated, comment section. Roman gets a lot of slack for his matches being all the same, but Seth's are just as formulaic and don't have the story to back them up. I honestly cannot wait for him to lose this title and go off for a bit.
it's just interesting because I don't know. I have no idea who this person is really. Oh,
John Albert.
John Albert. Yeah, it's just a name that I see pop up.
Yeah. He does the Hardys podcast.
But
he's like a wrestling journalist.
Well,
Good lad is John.
He tweeted last night that he doesn't say enough how good Seth Rollins is as a wrestler. So swing the roundabouts. Everyone has their own tastes. I personally feel that his I am also a bit sort of bored of the title run, but I don't necessarily know how much of that is Seth and how much of it is that I'd just like to see a title change now and again.
I think it is for me. Like why this title is not like connecting, or this run is not connecting. I think it is a combination of it's mostly presentation. It's not really Seth's in-ring work that I'm not vibing with, but the presentation of the title, it doesn't feel like it is the World Heavyweight Championship. I still don't really like the look of the belt, but like it's not doing anything for me. It feels like a secondary title. And I think part of that presentation is WWE hammering home, no, he's the top guy, and he is the workhorse champion. He's the working man's champion. And I don't buy it.
Yeah.
But that's a personal thing for me.
I also think that possibly there is an element of, the situation with his back, however real that was. There's the situation with his knee now. Maybe, lose the belt and go on a break for a while and come back. I'm always advocating for wrestlers to have time off and come back. Because remember when Drew came back at Money in the Bank and we were all living for it?
Yeah.
Give people a break now and again. It's good for them.
Kuzu, on the subject of the Rumble, there are so many great choices for the winner, but do you think if Cody won twice, it would be a good way of easing tension of The Rock taking his spot? Winning the Rumble would ensure Cody's place, Rock or no Rock.
I mean, it would certainly give a little bit of spice and flavor to the idea of The Rock. The fact that there has been precisely zero follow-up has me questioning, and the reports that Roman isn't going to be present in either Elimination Chamber or Backlash has me going, well, maybe that match will be saved for a SummerSlam or
Saudi Arabia.
Or a Saudi Arabia.
It's got Saudi main event written all over it.
It does. I mean, personally, it has Elimination Chamber main event written all over it. If you're going to try and fill out a stadium in Australia, you could.
doesn't go in that.
But that's what I'm saying. It's got that flavor to it. But yeah, I don't want to see The Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. I'm sorry, I don't.
No. You want to see Cody?
I want to see my boy win the belt. I've been waiting. I've done my waiting. 12 months of it.
Hulkamania is coming up. 40 years of Hulkamania is coming up.
You're one of my favorite people in the world, but every time you bring up Hulkamania 40 years, and I get so cross with you.
I got burned by 1,000 days. Hi, Teri. I know you're trying to sneak in. Teri and
How
Sullivan.
are you coming back with something so massive and thinking you're not going to make any noise?
We're live on the air, Sullivan and Teri.
Pay no attention to the fact that we should have finished 17 minutes ago.
All right, Teri, what do you think then? Atten says, calling it now, Punk and Larry versus Cody and Pharaoh will main event a Raw before Mania. What do you think of that?
Well, I think there's chances.
You think there's a chance of Punk tagging with his dog and Cody will also tag with his dog?
I think he's well trained.
And Teri, just a quick one from me, not from the comments, just from me. If I say a show is taking place in Leon and show pictures of the Eiffel Tower, does that feel fair?
I guess.
Teri starts sweating garlic and baguettes as we speak.
I really don't care about Paris, so...
Do you know why, Terry? It's because no one cares about Paris. Because Paris is a shithole.
Paris, Dad.
I love Paris.
You've got no taste.
How dare you?
Shithole and no one likes.
I hope they can hear them.
Ten Rosette here says, hey lads, love you both. Luke, I think it was a temporary set because of the wrestler disruptions. SRS thought that. Oh, it's
the weather disruptions.
Yeah, that's right. So it wasn't the full new design of the set. Apparently so. Dan, thoughts on the Emmys? I enjoyed it. Fave classic US sitcoms from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Crikey, there's also more here. Also, I'm going to the pub roll viewing party here in Melbourne, Australia.
I love a pub viewing party. I think it's going to be so much fun.
Too.
You know, they do... have a good time. The Emmys, I actually haven't caught up on who won what because I went to bed because I had to be up early. But you know me, and I love an award show. But the best sitcom is Frasier and Friends. Hands down.
Yeah, I watched the new Frasier because my parents have got Paramount Plus now, so I've got a login for it.
Lovely.
And it's quite charming,
delightful.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I need it to be.
Yeah, it's a little warm hug, I suppose.
That part.
I also watched Beavis and Butthead because like Paramount Plus. I've realised if you like South Park and Star Trek, fill your boots like that. There's all that out the wazoo. I like Star Trek.
Yeah.
So I've got some content on there, but I'm amazed at the lack of content that Paramount Plus has.
It has an awful lot of Best Picture winners. I will say I did a spreadsheet of Best Picture winners. And
Sullivan!
Oh my God!
I'm so sorry.
You might as well come on camera now at this stage.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I will. I'm sorry. It's just I want everything to be left as it was. As it was.
All right, Harry Styles.
There comes Sullivan. Look, he's wearing his coat.
Which is extra layers, extra things to drag behind you and knock things off the shelves.
Yes, but I would never do that.
Sullivan, I'll ask you, thoughts on the Emmys?
Oh, wow. Look at those.
And what was your fave classic US sitcom from the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
US sitcom.
Mm.
It's Seinfeld. This is the best sitcom ever made.
Come on.
And can you give me 5 words on Jinder Mahal?
You can't hinder the Jinder.
Thank you.
Sullivan Bo Brown, everyone.
There you go.
Award-winning comedian. Booking Like a Mark here says, storytelling is so important in booking. The Drew Cody segment was effective because they are fully fleshed out characters with history. The Jinder Seth match was hurt by the lack of story. Jinder hasn't been fleshed out, so the audience doesn't care. Bingo!
Yeah, bingo.
Bingo! We have an unknown username here. Please do let our moderators know it's a Streamlabs issue. Sorry about that. They say, at first I thought the new set was just the live event set, but if they keep this, I'm not mad about it. I don't think I've ever heard silence be so loud in my life until the women's tag matches. R-Truth needs to be my PR guy if he's making that much dollar.
Are they selling this t-shirt on WWE Shop?
Yeah. It's an official t-shirt.
Well, because if they're not and they're only selling it at live events, that's genius PR. That means you have to go to the show to get one.
Are you trying to say that if you sold an exclusive piece of merchandise but only at a live event, that would be a genius piece of merchandising?
I hate that I set you up for this, but yes.
Because we are selling an exclusive t-shirt at our watch party for the Royal Jamble, and you can actually pre-order it if you've got your ticket.
Are you going to give me a wad of cash like R-Truth? I'm not on that t-shirt.
You're not on that
am I?
t-shirt. Well, neither am I. Brett here says, R-Truth and the Judgment Day is just hilarious, and I want to see them continue even further. Great Cody and Drew promo, and a great Rhea Becky promo too. Luke, I don't care how bad that joke you whispered was done. I've got to know what it was so I can use it myself. I'm not going to. It's not 2000. It's not even 1978, which is probably where that joke first originated from.
It's just a bit blue. Or green, as you might say.
Yeah, quite. Did the Bear win anything at the Emmys?
Yeah, loads of stuff for comedy, even though it's not a comedy.
Yeah, it's going well. The Emmys is that the joke one? Like the Golden Globes? Like,
no, Golden Globes is the joke one. The
it's
Emmys
not
is the legitimate television.
It is. I was going to say, are the Emmys like the Golden Globes for television?
No. The Golden Globes are the Golden Globes of television. They give out television awards. The Golden Globes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And Morlan has got a bunch of chats here who said Seth is the champion. This is obviously in reference to our chat that we had earlier. Unlike Reigns, he actually beat top talent on his own, defends his belt, has beaten Roman in every major match they've had, facilitated needed character turns for Nakamura, Drew, and Finn, has had great matches with underrated talent. And unlike Gunther, Seth actually main events TV, 8 versus 6 shows as champions in shorter reigns, and pay-per-views 3 versus 0. Is more over with live crowds, and no one loses main event status after wrestling him, unlike Chad, Reed, or Ricochet and Gunther. Though I would question Shinsuke Nakamura on that one, and Finn Balor for that matter. Seth is a major ratings difference maker and merch seller, unlike Gunther. I think there's question marks over that one. The third hour, which is main evented, a lot of the things you've just mentioned there, do draw the worst ratings. As seen with his NXT match with Braun and his main event against Sammy doing better than Sammy versus Priest. He defended the title more frequently than the so-called ring general, and when Gunther, Reigns, and Seth had a defense on the same show, SummerSlam 2023, Seth had the best match. He cooked Punk on the mic, outworked Gunther in the ring, and is more credible than Roman Reigns. The IWC hatred is unwarranted. Luke and Dan are wrong.
What did Gunther do to you?
I think that's because, particularly myself, I think that Gunther is feels like a more credible champion than Seth Rollins does.
Yeah.
So I think that's why there's a lot of things about Gunther in there. Should also point out as well with Morlan, that's not Seth. That's the company booking him in those positions.
Yes, like that. I think that's what we said.
It's not real.
Yeah, like I think also Seth. I think the thing about it is the reason he was the one to pick to put this belt on is when he tried to establish it. He was a trusted pair of hands. kind of thing. And I don't think that sounds like damning with faint praise, but I think he was someone you can trust very well to come in and do the job and look after and put in some good matches for a belt. I don't see why that's a criticism of a guy, personally.
Yeah. Sorry, it's like that person there. It's Mara Joy. Did Seth write that ultra?
It's not that. I feel like we've missed one.
Have we?
I was reading it, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm just Marcus.
Yes.
I've enjoyed Seth's run as champion, but I'm ready for it to end. Not because Seth is bad, but because he needs a break. And he's basically been going non-stop since he came back from his last knee injury.
The thing when Triple H took over, and even in the bit where he was wrestling with Vince's mustache for the control, was that the titles had changed so often that they ultimately just didn't mean anything. And as a result, he had to build them up to the point where they do mean stuff now. I think we're in a position where the belts generally do mean stuff now. We're also in a position where I want to see some changes. You could go too far on the long title reign thing. It's why I don't want to see Gunther hold both belts, because I want there to be competition. I want there to be change.
We were talking about this in the office with Tempest and Pete and a handful of others as well, was that WWE is currently in a world where Seth's been champion for almost a year. Rhea's been champion for almost a year. Asuka's been champion for SummerSlam since SummerSlam's a half a year. Roman's obviously been champion for X amount of time. Gunther's been champion for 500 odd days. Bianca Belair had the belt for over a year. Triple H loves a long title.
The tag titles and the US title are the only ones where, and even Austin Theory's as champion before Mysterio took it off him, was champion for a long time.
Austin Theory really does feel like the Liz Truss of US champions, of just like who was it between those two prime ministers?
A lot more time with the belt than Liz Truss did with her office though.
Her premiership.
Yeah, but to the point that I do, we like a title change. They can feel good, and it helps you stop your show becoming stale.
Yeah, I'm a long title reign guy.
Yeah,
I'm always been an advocate for long title reigns, but with a long title reign, you need to have something within that. It is no bad thing that Rhea Ripley has had the belt from WrestleMania to WrestleMania, but what great story has Rhea Ripley had within that year
for the belt specifically?
That's what I'm thinking about when I look at a long title reign. What great story has Seth had as world champion in his near year-long reign? What great story. That's kind of what I mean. You can have a long title reign, but if your title reign is just, I've had the belt for a year and now it's a year on, then that doesn't feel like an impressive reign. The thing with Gunther, and to kind of Moreland's point here, the thing with Gunther for me is that he gets people over and people do feel more credible. The fact that the company has not pushed Chad, Reed, Ricochet, and afterwards, that's not on Gunther. That's on the company's follow-up. That's the promotion's follow-up of those people. But those are the matches that I'm going to remember. Those are the matches that I'm going to be thinking about when I'm coming to my year-end nominations and stuff. I don't think it's any coincidence that Seth didn't have any matches in the top 10. In our end of year awards, and did not make into the top 10 wrestlers of the year. And that's not on Seth as a worker. That's just the company has not given him that great story to sink his teeth into, or that really big match. He just had a series of matches with Finn, a series of matches with Nakamura, and then this match with Jinder, and it's just been matches. It's been no stakes to those matches.
Yeah,
and actually, I thought that last one he had with Nakamura was dead good.
I did too, and I think that.
But I never thought Nakamura was winning.
I enjoyed the SummerSlam with
Finn.
I enjoyed the idea of what if he loses the belt and then the belt goes. There was a lot of opportunity back then, and I think that's where a title change would have actually been very crucial. Would have been good.
I have ended the poll, so I can tell you what the results of this show was. 64% gave it a thumbs up, which is low for Raw.
Yeah.
31% in the middle, the rest thumbs down. That is low for Monday Night Raw. So maybe I'm out of step with this one.
No, I mean I think that's exactly how I feel about it. Yeah. It's around that. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That is this episode of the show. Thank you so much for watching the WrestleTalk podcast. Please do press the subscribe button. Give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode. And we'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. And then this coming Saturday, we have the SmackDown review. Then next week, it is Royal Rumble week, We will be having our Go Home edition of Raw being reviewed. We will then have our Royal Rumble predictions going up on the Wednesday, which should also have the entries for the Royal Jamble this year. It's usually a bit of a chaotic show. We'll have the Dynamite review on Thursday, and then we are gearing up for our Royal Rumble party, the Long Arm Pub and Brewery, on the 27th of January. There are a tiny number of tickets left, so please do get involved now before it's too late. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you on Thursday. I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been Dan Layton. Jam that jam.